Hello everybody and welcome to episode number 8 of an Irish knitting podcast. Hi everybody, I'm Sam. I am an artist, illustrator and an aspiring knitting designer based in the Republic of Ireland. And you can find me on the interweb as per usual looking for Irish farm art. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and of course on Ravelry. If you are new to my channel, this is my podcast, talk show, blog in which I talk about my knitting journey, my knitting endeavors, following more or less the classic knitting podcast schedule, looking into my finished works, works in progress, new customs, acquisition, and anything and everything that I've been knitting and crafting, of course, under the eyes of an artist. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. There's been so many views in the last couple of days that I'm mind blown, and we actually reached the first giant massive milestone of 1,000 subscribers. And I am already thinking of organizing a little giveaway to celebrate you guys and the time that you decided to dedicate to me. But I will get to that a little bit later. So, this week I won't have much going on. I've been off work for the week. As I mentioned in my previous podcast, I'm changing job and starting my new position on Monday. And so I had quite a bit of time to dedicate to my needles. Having said that, I am working on big projects like jumpers and sweaters and full garments, so I don't have finished anything big, but I managed to do a couple of things and work on other projects, so it won't be heavy content vlog this week, but I really wanted to touch base before I start my new job, and for sure I won't have the time to film and edit videos and of course knitting as much as I had in the past week. So enough with the blathering, let's start with my finished works. So the first thing I want to show you is this gorgeous jumper. This is the Save the Children sweater by Arne and Carlos, and I, as usual, will put some information here with yarn that I used and bits and bobs about the pattern as well, or you can find everything in my Ravelry projects and the links are below in the description. So this is the Save the Children sweater by Arne and Carlos. They published this pattern, and an amount of the money that I get from the sale of the pattern will go to Save the Children, the organization in aid of children in need. And I found that it was a very nice meaning towards the pattern, and as well the pattern is absolutely gorgeous. I have knitted this in drops alpaca, and it's a full-on color work. So let's start from the beginning. This is my very first grown-up knit and my very first garment. If you've seen my introductory vlog, my first video here, I went through a little bit of the pattern and the color work, so let me just give you a snippet. So this was a crazy idea and a crazy project. Being my first pattern, I decided to go with a full-on yoke in a stranded color work, and as well a raglan jumper, just because that wasn't difficult enough to manage color work. The pattern is written beautifully. There is just a minor error that I found on the stitch count of the sleeve when the sleeve attached to the other arm, but I'm sure Arne and Carlos know about this, and I've seen other people on Ravelry and on Facebook actually finding the same type of trouble. And I suppose is because I decided to knit the smaller size, and the other sizes don't have the count, the wrong count, the wrong number of stitches, but it's just a particular thing of the smaller size. Apart from that, nothing that couldn't be figured out. And of course, being my first garment, I probably was unaware of everything and just following the pattern very, what's the word, diligently. I kind of got mad for about a week or two trying to understand what was the stitch count there. But anyway, it's probably my most precious and loved jumper. First of all, because it fits extraordinarily well. I have rarely found a jumper that fits me this well. The color work gave my shoulder some structure and highlight a little bit the chest, which is always very nice. And as well, the length of the sleeves, the shape of the body, everything is absolutely perfect. I suppose that is not entirely due to the great pattern that Arne and Carlos have written, although they are extremely talented, but as well is due to the yarn that I decided to use. I use Drops Alpaca, which is a fingering weight yarn, 100% alpaca wool. And I found the yarn really stretchy. This little stretch brings the jumper together to fit quite well on the body. I would probably, if I need this again, go with a larger size. But it's interesting because the 260 stitches of the bottom part of the jumper actually became my staple for knitting a garment for myself. So I know that 260 stitches is my waist if I knit with fingering weight yarn. So I just need to thank Arne and Carlos for this jumper because it was absolutely beautiful. Would I be so crazy to knit with 100% alpaca yarn a color work? I don't know. I feel like the stitch definition is not great because it's a little fuzzy and tends to drop a little bit. But I am constantly wearing this, and I found that wearing this over and over makes the wool to stiffen up a little bit and get a little bit less drippy and more defined. I also throw this in the washing machine, don't tell anybody. So kudos to Drops because the alpaca yarn is just a great overall yarn, and I cannot wait to knit something else with that. I always have this in my mind, and I have a couple of jumper quantity of alpaca in my stash. And by the way, you can find everything that is in my stash on the Ravelry stash tool. I took the time last week to set it up, so it's up to date, and all my yarns are there. So if you're curious, just drop on my Ravelry page. Anyway, I have this couple of jumper quantities in colors that I love, and I always tell myself, okay, I should really knit another jumper in alpaca because I love this and I wear this all the time. Literally is wearing very well, and I just love it. I wear it under a t-shirt, on the top of a t-shirt. It's not scratchy like other wool could be, and it's just really warm, though being really light. The thing that stops me to actually knit another alpaca jumper is that it's quite difficult to work with. I don't know if it's part of being bad memories from this knit or if it's actually difficult. I must just bite the bullet and try again. We'll see, but for now I don't have any projects with that yarn, although I have my jumper quantities there and they are all nice and cuddly in their boxes. The first finished project that I would like to share to you today is another Arne and Carlos project, and is this Christmas balls here, and I haven't blocked it and I haven't woven in the ends yet. Hopefully you can see some of the design. This is the eighth Christmas ball from the 55 Christmas balls to knit, and is called mitten because the pattern on the ball itself is coming from a traditional pattern that you can find on the bottom part of Selbu mitten and Norwegian mittens. I really love this pattern. It's very easy to knit up and the color work look great for sure. I haven't blocked it yet because I have a bag full of Christmas balls, or that is getting full of Christmas balls. And I have found another podcaster which is called Martin from Knit 365, if I'm right, here on YouTube. He was knitting Arne and Carlos bubbles as well, and he decided not to fill them and block them straight away, but knit them all and then fill them and block them. Because first of all takes less space, and my bag is getting quite full, and I do not have enough space in this tiny apartment to actually store 55 or 155 Christmas ball, or whatever number of balls Arne and Carlos came up with, and I am knitting them all. So I will do all the stuffing and blocking at the very end before Christmas, and I might film some footage on that and give my thought. The other reason, apart from the space, is because I have noticed a little bit of inconsistency between the balls, the bubbles. This is due probably to stuffing quantity, so one is stuffed more and the other one is stuffed less. So if I do everything in one go, probably I'll be more precise with the stuffing material and I will get similar dimensions. So here you go, my first finished work, one of the 55 Christmas balls of Arne and Carlos. And by the way, I am putting myself the challenge of knitting all of the Christmas balls, so the 55 from the book and the other 100 balls that over the years Arne and Carlos came up with. So crazy challenge, never gonna be finished by Christmas, but I don't mind. I just want a large enough amount of balls to decorate my tree this Christmas, which is completely fine. Another thing on this ball here, I'm knitting this, by the way, in Drops Fable, which is sock yarn, 75% wool and 25% nylon. The yarn is fine, nothing to complain about. I'm using a 2mm needle to get this dimension and as well the fabric to be quite nice and put together and stiff. The problem that I was facing with 2mm needles and I was using DPNs was that they are extraordinarily fiddly, and especially the first few rounds get really fiddly and messy. So for I don't know what type of blessing from God and my mind that came together, I thought, why am I not using magic loop? And then completely changed my life. Magic loop technique with this very small amount of stitches works fantastically. So I am going to knit the rest with magic loop and not even touching the very small double pointed needles. I'm so much faster with magic loop, and the work just comes together so much better. I think it's because I'm used to knit socks and garments in the looping with the magic loop thing, so it might be easier to get a color work nice and tidy there. But anyway, that was the first done. The second project that I finished This is a hut, and it's not a pattern, I just made it up a little bit. It's a color work with some geometrical features. There are triangles coming together, as well as a little tiny owl. I don't know if you can see it from the screen. I hope so. Anyway, why this design here and what's the pattern about? So, this hut is for my sister, and she is currently studying philosophy in a university, and she goes actually to the university I have been to, and it's one of the oldest universities in the world, probably the first in the Western world. It's the University of Padova, of course, and yeah, so basically every year in my university or my sister's university, they do celebrate so-called Piscopia Day. What is that? So Piscopia is a figure, it's a name of a lady. She was called Elena Piscopia Cornaro, and she is the first ever woman in a Western university to receive a doctorate. And she graduated in philosophy and theology back in the year, I don't know, 300 or something, like hundreds of years ago. And being the first woman receiving a degree from a university opened the universities, at least in Italy and France back then, to female, which is great. And she's kind of a pioneer of feminism and female empowerment movement, and everything that is great about all the great personalities, artists, scientists, philosophers that my university and Italy could offer. And she's probably a testament of all the ladies out there that decided to go through studying, becoming doctors, lawyers, engineers, you name it. And I really feel like the fact that my university is still celebrating Piscopia or Elena, it's a great reminder to everybody that it's not being always super easy for women to access universities and to have the freedom of studying. And nowadays is still the thing, even here in Ireland. Some communities, for example, don't really accept women to follow a path in university. It's quite difficult to talk about these things, and I don't want to offend anybody, and I do respect all cultures and rights, but I do think that that a woman is not different from a man from a right point perspective. So if a woman has a desire to study, why would you have a problem with that? And I think Episcopia back in the year 1300 went through all of these issues as well. Her family didn't accept her to go to school, of course, and if she wanted to study, she had to become a nun. Piscopia didn't want to become a nun, and she just wanted to study. So for the first part of the university curriculum or university years, she actually embraced an order, the nunnery. And then she realizes that that wasn't really her life, that wasn't really her choice, and she just had a huge love for learning, for culture, and to make a mark actually in the philosophy, in the theology world back then. So she continued studying, and she got a dispense from the local council, from the rector of the university, and from the Pope itself to be able to become a doctor and to graduate from university. So she did, and she graduated and she became the first woman. Then she published books and studies and essays around theology and philosophy, and she is probably one of the most brilliant people that my university was able to produce. And I'm super proud that my university was able to give a woman the first chance of studying and becoming someone, as an example for all the women out there. This long flight to say that my sister's university now is celebrating Piscopia, and Piscopia Day they always wear something that reminds of philosophy. And the shield of the philosophy, how do you call it, faculty of my university has a owl. So they do wear something with the owl, or they have little owl pin on their hat and stuff like that. So I made this because of Piscopia, and to send it to my sister to celebrate the Piscopia Day. The yarn that I've knitted this is just a mix of two balls that I have left there. One is Drops Nord, which is 25 alpaca and 75 wool, if I'm right, and then Drops Charisma, which is 100% wool. If you are interested in the colorwork pattern, I can write it up quite easily. I will send it to you. Just send me an email. I don't know if I want to put this on Ravelry. It's not that complicated or that big of a construction, but it's just like a hat. Let me try it on for you. Fits actually surprisingly well. I have done an Italian cast on and 2x2 ribbing, and then it's just the hat and the creases on the crown, quite regular or easy. A little tiny bridge on that, which will bring us gently into the end of my finished works, towards the beginning of project works in progress. So I just mentioned, if you have good ears, the full name of Piscopia. She was called Elena Piscopia Cornaro. And does that name remind you something? And I'm bringing up this pair of socks here. These are the Ca Corner socks, or Ca Cornaro in Italian, which is the first pair of my socks for the collection dedicated to the buildings, the palaces that are facing the Canal Grande, or the Grand Canal, in Venice. So Cornaro, or Corner, is one of the families that built one of the palaces, and is the first palace that I've dedicated a pattern to. And Piscopia was actually part of the family Cornaro. She didn't manage to live in the palace in the Ca Corner that I just mentioned, because the Ca Corner was still being built. So she didn't really live there much, and then she moved from Venice to Padova for studying, and then she lived her entire life between Padova, Bologna, and Venice, of course. So probably she saw the building completed, but we don't have any documents that suggest that she lived there. But I was able to find out that she was born in another beautiful building in Venice facing the Canal Grande, which is called Ca Loredan, and I'm putting a picture of Ca Loredan there. It's another majestic palace. It's a little bit older than Ca Corner, and we know that she lived there. She was born there, and she lived there her childhood towards the Venetian lovely squares, and they are called campi actually. They're not squares in Venice. Anyway, that will be gently leading into the next pattern that I'm working on. And I'm gonna show you, because there's nothing much done on that pattern. This will be, or is, the beginning of the Loredan socks that I will probably name with a subtitle Piscopia, because I want to dedicate these socks to her. And the way that I'm working these socks is a quite simple color work on the top of the sock, a game of ribbing on the body, because I kind of want the leg to be a little stretchy. The last ones that I've done are all full on color work, so they don't really have much stretch, and all the stretch is given by the ribbing on the top. So I want something more wearable and more easy to put on and just to slide into your shoes. So that is something that I'm working on right now. It will have for sure a feature dedicated to Elena Piscopia. So probably I'm thinking a color work on the heel part, something like that. I haven't finished my design process yet, so that will come. I'm knitting this in my Adria Feel Calza sock yarn, and I'm using for probably the first time ever a 3-color stranded color work, which will be quite interesting going forward with the socks. Something that I want to apply to this pair of socks though is coming from, sorry, this thing here. So this is a pair of socks that are, as you can tell, very well used, and these are one of the 3 pair of socks that my great grandmother Angelina knitted for me back 10 years ago when she was alive. So I am serving this and wearing this only for very, very special occasions, when I feel a little homesick or when I have a very, very bad day and I need some pampering. So I'm treasuring these 3 pair of socks. So probably I have a 4th one somewhere, as they were made out of gold, because of course they remind me of my great grandmother, and they are like a very nice thing. They're very thick. This is probably a Decaish yarn, and yeah. So apart from the emotional side of the sock, it's a very simple sock. We have a ribbing on the cuff and on the top of the sock, a very simple, I would say, toe here that I haven't studied yet. But the thing that I want to study and to use for the Loredan socks is actually the heel. I have no idea if you can see the heel here. It looks like it is a sort of gusset, heel flap and gusset, but is not made of picking up stitches for the gusset. I don't know how to explain this. It's basically a sort of, and I have looked, as per usual, my camera decided to stop. Anyway, I was saying that this is not a heel flap and gusset type of sock. I was checking with my mom if she remembers how my great grandmother knitted socks, but she can't remember. She though confirmed that my great grandmother wouldn't use a hook to pick up stitches, so it's very unlikely that she picked up stitches for the gusset here. It looks like to me there are a number of increases and a number of decreases on the flap. So we haven't got a proper gusset. We have just a number of increases down here and a number of decreases down here to create this kind of L-shape type of effect. I am still working out how this is done, and I would really love to recreate this for my next pattern. Not just to commemorate my great-grandmother, but as well to really understand how traditional socks were knitted. She was an extraordinarily brilliant woman. She was knitting a lot. All her life she knitted, and I've always seen her knitting. She probably knitted this at the very end of her life. They are not super precise. There's a couple of missed stitches here, but they're still gorgeous. And yeah, I mean, she didn't knit this from a pattern, so I'm sure this was kind of a traditional way of knitting socks, or something that she came up with and worked fine. So I am in the process of studying this well, and then getting this written down and into my next pattern. So here you go. And that is it for sock knitting. Going on with works in progress, you may remember this thing here, which is becoming a massive beast. And is me, or am I the only one that's put its needle onto the ball of yarn to stop them? Is it something you do, guys? I have no idea. Anyway, I've always seen my mom doing this, so I might stick with that. So far it works fine. Let me turn it. So this is, of course, the Anker sweater by Petite Knits. It's knitted up in this gorgeous yarn by Studio Donegal, the spinning company. The colorway is number 3750, which is light grey. It's a kind of a rustic 100% Irish wool specklish yarn, decay weight. And I have so far knitted up 3 skeins of the yarn, and I have started from the top of the yoke, from the neckline, and I'm going down very slowly towards the body. The sleeves are already open there. I probably will need another, I would say, 15 to 20 centimeters of body before starting the ribbing and then closing up. This is extraordinarily slow, and it's 100% due to the yarn. I find this rustic yarn, this very heavy rustic yarn, being a torture on my hands. Nothing to do with Studio Donegal. It's probably the way I knit. I am knitting continental style, so keeping the yarn over my finger, and I find that it sticks to everything. For example, I knit from the couch, and I'm pointing because it's just there. And on the couch I have a woolen blanket, and the yarn sticks to the blanket. So I need to wear a pair of acrylic pants, or like those cotton type of thingy, just to get the yarn to slide through the pants, because if it touches the throw on my sofa, is just sticking there and won't pull. It's more or less like Velcro. So I find this so difficult, and my hands after 2 or 3 rounds are basically destroyed. So this is growing very slowly. I though love the consistency of the yarn, and the fabric that it creates is just absolutely beautiful. I mentioned in my past video that I wasn't able to try it on because I really don't have long cables. And Susan from the Wild Cottage podcast here on YouTube, and please go check her out. Her videos are just amazing. She contacted me and she said she has this little kind of strings, plastic strings here, that I can loop into my stitches and create a very long cable to try the jumper on. So she was so very kind to send me a couple to try, and thank you so much, Susan. This was unexpected and really nice, and I really appreciate that. So what I've done, I've tried the jumper on, and I found that it's a little bit big. I am knitting the second size, so the small size. which could be right considering the ease, considering the gauge for my measurement. So the thing that I'm thinking of is to leave it as it is, block it, and try to figure out if after blocking this wool will contract a little bit. I feel like the wool is full of residue from the spinning and from the carding, so that is probably something that I need to consider. So I'm not thinking of unraveling and getting the small size done for the amount of work I've been doing, and as well because I feel like somehow with a nice gentle blockage and washing up, this could actually result in a nicer fitting jumper. If it doesn't, I probably won't mind. This is really heavy, and it's just very nice to throw on a very cold day here in Ireland, and it smells amazing as well. So my very first Anker sweater by Petite Knits. I'd say if this wasn't Studio Donegal yarn, if I was knitting this with another yarn, this will fly off the needles, literally. It's just so easy and so quick to knit up. And finally, the latest work that we have been doing, it's been featured on my Instagram quite a few times, and this is the Bubble Sweater by Stephen West, which is gorgeous. So I am knitting this up with super soft Cascade 220, and it's in this gorgeous color wine and dark gray, which together works wonders. I probably would have preferred wine color to be a little bit more bluish, like a purple, but I am astonished about this work. It's so beautiful. I am currently at the very last bubble round of the yoke. I just cut off the contrasting color, and I will start knitting in the round and dividing for the sleeves. Probably tomorrow. I am recording a full video on this project with snippets here and there on when I knit and the progresses, just to keep myself a little bit accountable and to get this finished somehow soon. And you will see this video coming up when this is finished as well. And yeah, something that I was mentioning is that I have made a couple of errors in the count of the stitches, especially in one of the gray rows of bubbles, and the bubbles are a little bit wonky, but you can't really see that. It's very easy to knit, it's very quick, the bubble technique is amazing, and the yarn is just fantastic. It's really soft, really flying through the needles and sliding through the needles, sorry, I mean, I never knit with something like this, and it's a very nice discovery for me. I ended up ordering more yarn, because more Cascade 220 super soft, because I want another jumper. I don't know if this same jumper, although I am completely in love with the look of this jumper, I don't know if such a busy yoke would work on me on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, so we will see about that. So yeah, I'm working on this a couple of hours every morning. I find myself, now that I am at the full length of the stitch count, that a round takes me about 5 to 10 minutes, so it's a little bit getting slower and slower, but yeah, enjoying this so far. So here it is, the end of my works in progress as well. So let me now address the ginormous elephant in the room, which is not my foliage here. This is just a nice little plant that I keep beside my desk slash living room table to get some sanity and some of the outside world inside. So the elephant in the room is that we guys reached the 1,000 subscribers, and subscriber count is still growing. And I would love to thank you so very much for this, because never I could expect such a warm welcome and such a interesting engagement with more experienced knitter, other people that just start knitting, and every single comment that I receive is just a big blessing for me. Just because it feels like I don't have a knitting community in Ireland, I'm not part of a knitting group, and it's so nice to be able somehow to share with people this love that I found probably was always inside me. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm getting emotional out of, but anyway, to thank you all for the patience that you have with me, and for being so kind to drop a comment, a like, subscribe on this channel. I would like to organize another giveaway. I've done one for the 500 subscribers, and I believe the prize is flying through Canada right now. So I really hope that prize will get to its owner soon. And yeah, so I am thinking of getting a couple of things as a prize, but I would like the prize to be meaningful. In my previous one, my previous giveaway, I gifted one of my patterns as well as the materials to knit that pattern. So the wool that I used, and a set of needles, and a project bag that I made. For this giveaway, it's 1,000 subscribers, a huge number of people. So I thought that something that I could give away is one of my most favorite books. I'm not giving away this. I bought another copy. So let me put this back, not to get it dusty and old fingery. So this is the Scandinavian Knitting Style by Arne and Carlos. And this is basically the book. I don't know if you can see, for the light is shiny. But yeah, this is the book that I more or less learned how to knit socks, mittens, and jumpers. So I find that this book is really meaningful for me, because it gave me an introduction to stranded colorwork, and gave me an introduction to the great Arne and Carlos, their style and the way of knitting, which very much I do embrace. So a copy of this that you have seen already, it's part of the giveaway for sure. Now, I'm asking you, as I don't think I'm gonna put some other patterns, there are plenty in this book. It's so many, between gloves, accessories, toys, pillows, coasters, garments, blankets, blah 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 blah. So many, and the pictures are just beautiful, and I can't stop looking at this. Anyway, apart from that, what should I include? I was thinking to share some Irish yarn, perhaps. And I didn't want to get into the Studio Donegal or the Cauchendale yarn, those kind of mainstream type of companies. Not because I don't want to support them. I'm very much sure that a skein sold by them is not really impacting much of their business. But I really very much would like to support indie dyers from Ireland. And we all know that if an indie dyer sells a skein, that is so much bigger of an impact and of the support that we all can give to the dyer itself. So I have launched last week a question round, those things, on my Instagram account to ask for suggestion on indie dyers. And I'm thinking of getting a couple of skeins from a few indie dyers and include those in the project, in the price as well. So the thing that I would like to ask you is just, what do you think? Is that something you would be interested in? Is something that might not be the case, because of course I won't be able to try the yarn before starting the giveaway, and I probably won't have the means to buy a couple of skeins for myself as well. So yeah, that is an idea. Another idea probably could be some set of tools or a project bag. In my previous giveaway, I was asking for project bag recommendations, and I received so many. So going through those and decide a nice project bag, perhaps from an Irish designer or an Irish producer, and then give them. I'm open to suggestions and recommendations, so if you have any, just please drop a comment below, and I will definitely announce the giveaway or open the giveaway in my next video. And I was thinking of doing something quite different as well, and maybe link the giveaway with a knit along, just to make things a little bit more spicier, or to run a knit along separated from the giveaway. That is another option. If you see, all my patterns are quite easy, so might be one of my patterns, I don't know. It's still up in the air, but for sure before the next podcast we'll get some ideas. So once again, apart from the Arne and Carlos pattern book, what would you see as a good giveaway? Some skeins of indie dyers, Irish yarn, or and a project bag, perhaps made here in Ireland. Let me know. I'll be really interested, and of course the giveaway will be open globally, worldwide. And yeah, last thing I would like to mention is a couple of podcast recommendations. And I do want to recommend Susan from the Wild Cottage Knitting podcast. I will put a link to her channel below. She was so very kind to gift me with those cable strings to try on my knits. And she is a brilliant podcaster. Please check her last video. She was out to a friend's cottage, a friend's farm for the lambing season, and she brings you around the farm in the evening time, checking for hues to be ready for the lambing, and that was brilliant. It actually brought me right back when I was a child in my family's farm. And yeah, all the nights spent for waiting for the little lamb to get birth, and to the cows as well. Like, it was just a brilliant and heartwarming podcast. So check her out, and she is a brilliant knitter. If you want to learn more about Irish yarn, Irish craft, she knows everything. And she doesn't have an Irish accent as well, and it seems like it's a silver lining towards the Irish knitting world. I receive a few messages on this channel and on Instagram saying, oh, what a disappointment, I was expecting an Irish accent. And I am so really sorry, I can't give you an Irish accent. I am working on that, I promise you. I am working on my Irish accent so much, but so far I haven't managed to get it quite right. I am managing to get Irish citizenship though, by the way. It should be in the post very soon, if I ever get the blessing from the ministers, but like, I'll be Irish very soon. My accent won't really change very soon. So the other podcast I would like to recommend you is from Katie Green and the Katie Green podcast here on YouTube. Katie is an illustrator and a brilliant knitting designer and crafter from the United Kingdom. Anyway, they are brilliant in, I don't know, recreating a magical, whimsical environment through their knitting. And when you're watching Katie videos, it actually feels you're in a very cozy fairy tale in the middle of a forest. Just is so beautiful. Even if you're not into knitting, check them out. They're brilliant, and Katie is absolutely lovely, and their dog Jack is adorable as well. So Katie Green is my second recommendation. So another creator I would like to mention, and his videos are literally teaching me basically all that I know about knitting, yarns, and crafts using yarns, yarns property, knitting tools, knitting techniques, literally everything is drawing in yarn, and I will put the YouTube channel, the website down below in the description. He has such a great and simple and clear way to describe stuff. His creations are just amazing. Is a talented creator, a talented YouTuber. His picture on Instagram is just beautiful, and I'm sure you know about Caleb already. If you don't, give him a shout. You won't stop to learn from them. I am currently trying to follow a couple of his tutorial on gradient dyeing. So I bought online some dye, and I'm currently knitting up some very plain mittens just to get an understanding of how that works. I didn't include them in my works in progress because it's just like white plain mitten and nobody cares about. But I really want to try and figure out if I can recreate a gradient type of dyeing process that he teaches you in his one of his last videos actually. So go him, follow Caleb on YouTube or on his website or on Instagram, literally everywhere. He is just amazing. And having said that, it's been quite an hour probably of talking, and I have to crack on, make some dinner, and yeah, continue knitting on. And I really hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider to give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to tell me what you think about the giveaway. I can't wait to open it, and I can't wait to give you guys something back for being so amazing. So before we say goodbye, as usual, please stay safe, enjoy your knitting, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye bye.